G-Saviour is often considered as one of the worst Gundam productions ever, with the most positive comment usually being that it's so bad, it's good. And when I watched it for the first time, a long time ago now, I definitely didn't have a lot of good things to say about the movie either. And honestly, I was perfectly happy never ever touching that movie again. But now that we have confirmation that another live-action Gundam movie has entered production, a thought entered my head. Why don't I watch G-Saviour again to see if maybe I was too harsh on it? What if it got better with the years? What if I see something now that I didn't see back then? What if I just jump back in and see what happens?
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part too.
Nope, wrong movie. Sorry, wrong again.
Seal off the section. No one gets in or out. Go.
Ah, there we go. Yeah, maybe I should have stuck with watching Power Rangers Lost Galaxy. But anyways, G-Saviour. And hold on to your hats here, cause I'm actually gonna start by saying something positive about how the movie begins. I really like how the G-Saviour shoots the title, and there's just this very nostalgic, cozy vibe of late 90s, early 2000s direct-to-TV movies.
2045 AD, man began his expansion into space with the construction of self-contained settlements called sides. A massive colonization of space followed, marking the dawn of an aptly christened universal century.
If only the rest of the movie felt just like this, because once the actual story began, that cozy, nostalgic feeling went right out the window. We are now Universal Century 223, and the Earth Federation has fallen apart for a variety of reasons that don't really matter now. In its place have risen two new powers. And it's also important to note here that space colonies are now called settlements, which is important for the names of these two new powers. So, on the one hand, we have the Congress of Settlement Nations, or Consent for short. And they rule over the Earth as well as sites 2, 3, 5, 6, and 7. Basically, they're the Federation. And on the other hand, we have the Settlement Freedom League. They rule over the Moon and sites 1 and 4. Essentially, they're the New Zeon. So I'm sure you already have an idea of how this story is gonna go. But no, you can forget about all that. All you need to know is that consent is bad, don't take that out of context, and that they have an issue with a neutral settlement located inside 8. This settlement is called Gaia, and you can tell that it's Gaia because there's plants all over the place. Very subtle, I know. So the thing with Gaia is that some of their scientists developed a special enzyme that would make it possible for food to be grown underwater. And because the vast majority of Earth consists of water, this would solve the food crisis that is currently plaguing both the Earth and outer space. Or so we are told. Because here's the thing. The movie really likes exposition, and not the good kind. While I was watching, I felt like they were constantly techno-babbling about this enzyme. But the fact that there's a food crisis going on gets acknowledged almost in passing. We don't see it, nor do we see its effects. Like, show me why the enzyme is important. Don't just tell me about it. And this is the one thing that I really remembered from watching the movie. It felt like it was constantly going from one exposition dump to the next, which just made it a slog to get through. And it didn't have to be this way. The food crisis is a potentially very interesting story, but it just really needs to be refocused. The characters could probably also do with some rewriting as well, because most of them felt very one-dimensional, and oftentimes I felt like their motivations for doing something wasn't because that's what their character would do, but because that's what the movie needed them to do. For example, our reluctant main character is Mark Curran, an ex-consent pilot who does not want to get involved. Until out of nowhere, he decides to risk his life for an intruder, who at that moment is a completely random person to him. This person will become his love interest later on in the movie. Also, fun fact, she is the voice actress for Lady Un from Gundam Wing.
You know, Mark, after everything that's happened these past few days, I kind of wish that there was a way to thank you.
You don't have to thank me.
But yeah, there's more of these kinds of things happening later on in the movie, but I won't spoil them in case you do decide to watch it. So let's talk about the mobile suits instead. Just like almost everyone can agree that G-Saviour sucks, most people can agree that the mobile suit design is actually pretty good. Sure, it might not translate that well to their live-action counterparts, but if you look at the concept art, there are some really cool designs here. Like, you tell me that the MS Rai doesn't look like something Kazuhisa Kondo would have designed in the 80s. And that's also why, back in the day, I unironically bought the G-Saviour Space Mode high-grade model kit. By today's standards, it's obviously not gonna wow you, but for a high-grade from 2000, it was actually pretty good. And it unfortunately also feels like more model kits were planned, but due to reasons that we'll never know, they were never made. Their animation in the movie, though, has not aged particularly well. I will admit, for 1999, this was more than okay on a technical level, but this doesn't change the fact that the mobile suits move way too clunky. Again, the story takes place in UC-223, which is almost 150 years after the One-Year War, and the G-Saviour machines seem to move slower and clunkier. This makes the final epic battle of the movie significantly less epic. Also, this final epic battle is one of the few times where we actually get mobile suits fighting each other, something that also didn't help with the movie feeling like a slog. So, unfortunately, my opinion of G-Saviour the Movie has not changed all that much on my rewatch. I like the beginning now, but it is quickly followed by a boring slog with uninspired characters and an epic conclusion that just doesn't deliver. And for me personally, it also wasn't zany enough to fall into the "it's so bad it's good" category. I envy the people for whom G-Saviour is this bad. For me, it was just boring. I would have called it a Canadian war crime against Gundam, but it's technically not a Canadian movie. It was filmed in Canada, and both the actors and director are Canadian, but the film itself was a joint effort by Sunrise, which is of course a Japanese studio, and Polestar Entertainment, which is an American studio. The more you know. But this was not where G-Saviour ended. In fact, it wasn't even where it began. So, in the West, we only got G-Saviour the Movie. But in Japan, they got a lot more. And before you feel too bad about Japan getting even more G-Saviour, I've heard that they actually make things better. Not that they could get much worse, but anyways. In Japan, they got 3 radio dramas, which were also released on CD, 2 novels, a video game, a manga, an art book, a soundtrack, the model kit I mentioned earlier, and probably even more stuff that I just don't know about yet. So, to get my hands on some of this cool Japan-only stuff, I teamed up with today's sponsor, JP Fans, a Japanese proxy buying service with unbeatable service fees for some of Japan's most popular online stores, like Mercari, Yahoo Shopping, Amazon, and Surigaya. And shopping here really couldn't be easier. Let's say that we want to buy those G-Saviour radio dramas. These are a prequel to the movie that were also broadcast in Japan before the movie was released, so this is where G-Saviour began. We can either look for them through the search function on the JP Fans website, where you can search in English, or we can go to one of the shopping websites themselves, where you have to then use Japanese. Pro tip, if you're unsure of how to spell something in Japanese, in 99% of cases, the Gundam wiki will have the Japanese spelling for characters, mobile suits, and even series. So, copy, paste, and there we go. Now I simply copy-paste the URL into the JP Fans search bar, and they'll tell me everything that I need to know. The converted price, the state of the product, and the shipping fees for inside of Japan. I then add it to my shopping cart, submit it, and get a nice overview of what the total cost of the item will be. Once paid, it'll be shipped straight to JP Fans' warehouse, where they will keep it for free for up to 60 days, giving you almost 2 months to buy even more amazing stuff, like premium Bandai Limited things, or maybe the G-Saviour PlayStation 2 game. When all of your items have then arrived, you simply click to combine them into one big package, pay for the shipping, and it gets delivered straight to your door. And you know what's better than regular shipping? Discounted shipping. By using my link down below, or the invite code 800220151, you'll get shipping vouchers with a total value of $86. You'll also be directly supporting the channel. And now, I am the proud owner of G-Saviour for the PlayStation 2. Let's pop it in. I'm gonna have to start my review for the video game the same way as my review for the movie. I really like the intro. The visuals are cool and the music is an absolute vibe. And believe it or not, but the rest of the music playing throughout the game is just as good. So I can already tell why people were telling me to play the game. Starting the story then, I was shocked for a number of reasons, both good and bad. The first thing that surprised me is that the game is actually completely in English. The menus are straight up English, and all of the dialogue is voiced in English, so it's kinda surprising that they didn't go through the minor effort required to bring it over to the West. The quality of the voice acting though...
Upon landing on Earth, our mission is to attack and seize the spaceport from the military and return its control to the citizens of Earth.
This is the map of the location where the mission will take place.
But I gotta admit, the voice acting was so bad and so stilted that it became good again for me. I loved its campiness, and it just transported me straight back to the late 90s and early 2000s. Also, what the hell is up with those profile pictures? These don't look like they belong in an official game at all. It looks more like some kind of low-budget, fan-made computer game. Maybe that's why they didn't bring it over to the West. But again, at this point, I'm still having fun, and the story they're trying to tell also isn't too bad. The game is a sequel to the movie, but uses an entirely new cast with only like slight references to the movie, so I guess you could even get away with playing the game without having watched the movie. You play as Reed Fox, ace pilot, coffee aficionado, and member of the Illuminati's elite lightning squad.
Please return to the mothership. I'll make a special copy for you.
Fantastic.
Your mission as part of the Illuminati is to maintain peace throughout the galaxy. So think of them as a kind of AUG. The game begins as you catch wind of Project Raven, a new weapon development plan spearheaded by consent hardliners who want consent to have more power. So think of them as the Titans, if you will. This would of course upset the current status quo, resulting in the Lightning Squad traveling all across the world in an attempt to stop Project Raven. And throughout this battle, you'll get into a relationship with the ship's controller, Asaka, and you'll also learn more about a pilot that Reed used to mentor, but who mysteriously vanished. It's not the best story I've ever seen, nor is it the most original, but it is plenty to get you from mission to mission. So let's get started. I was confused, because this plays unlike any other Gundam game that I've ever played. The movements are clunky, and when I tried using the right analog stick, I quickly found out that it just functions as a glorified rear-view mirror. You touch it, and it looks behind you. It's pointless, and it confused me because this is a PlayStation 2 game that feels like it was made for the PlayStation 1 controller. Other than that, moving around was just clunky and slow. But then I figured out how the game actually worked. By pressing L3, you enter hovering mode, and this is where the real fun begins. Your mobile suit is now a lot faster and also a lot more agile, at least until your hovering meter runs out, which then forces you to land to replenish it. This then becomes the gameplay loop for the first few missions. You run around, enter hovering mode to take out the enemies, and then land to replenish the meter, all while you're listening to some great music. And what I'm about to tell you surprised me as much as it's gonna surprise you. I was honestly having a blast. Despite the game's many flaws, which we will get into in a second, I was having a great time. Later on in the game then, you'll unlock more mobile suits to choose from, which also mix up the gameplay, and I gotta say, these do play very differently. The standard G-Saviour gets upgraded to the G-Saviour, and kinda acts as your jack-of-all-trades standard Gundam. It doesn't have any standout features, but there's also no major drawbacks to this mode. Next up, there is the Intensive Attack mode, a heavier, slower version with a focus on firepower. Its main feature is a really powerful cannon with a big blast range when it hits, and this thing can easily take out multiple enemies at once. But it does have some drawbacks. While firing, your machine has to stand still, and its range is roughly the same as the enemy's range, making it very easy to take damage while you're using this thing, and this is definitely not something you want. So while it was fun to use for a bit, I found myself going for the third and final version, the Ground Attack mode. A really nice combination of speed and firepower. Its standard attack is powerful enough to take out 2 or even multiple enemies if you've got them lined up, and instead of hovering, it uses rollerblades to skate over the ground. Gameplay-wise, this is mostly the same, but there is an important difference. Hovering is limited by the hovering meter, but skating can be done infinitely. So yeah, this mode was a lot more fun to use. What wasn't fun to use was the melee attack. Unless it's some kind of super high skill thing that I'm just not good enough for, I found melee to be useless at best and a liability at worst. So, The thing is, no matter which mobile suit you're piloting, you don't have a lot of health. The lower health suits can take like 6 shots maybe, and the higher health suits can take like 10 shots. And this becomes less when you're facing a boss. Now, I get why they don't give us a lot of health, because we do have a recharging energy shield, kinda like in Halo. But unlike Halo, this shield has a couple of issues. The first is that you constantly have to press a button to have it up. It's not a toggle. And you're gonna want to constantly press this button because, again, your health is so low. The second problem then is that it only protects your front. You get shot from behind? Tough luck. The third problem then is specifically for melee combat. So, here's how it works. When you enter melee combat range for your target, both you and your target switch to beam sabers. And then it's a free-for-all. Sometimes it works, and sometimes it feels like even though I'm the one attacking first, it's the enemy doing the damage, and melee does some heavy damage. And to add to this, something that I didn't notice until I was editing this video, certain units will disengage the shield when using melee, making it even easier to take damage. And then on top of all of that, there isn't even really an incentive to engage in melee combat in the first place. It's slower, and except for the bosses, almost every grunt is killed in a single shot anyways. Using melee is basically just setting yourself up to take a lot of damage, especially against the bosses. And talking about the bosses, let's talk about how the levels are set up. There's a grand total of 8 levels, or chapters as they're called here, and the first 7 play out exactly the same. In the first part, you traverse a pretty bland, uninspired, and linear area, simply blasting through hordes of enemies. You're not really playing this game for the graphics, it's mostly the music and the surprisingly fun and simple gameplay getting you through it. And then when you get to the end of the level, you're transported to an arena for a boss battle.
Damn it! How dare you! You destroyed our shield generator! Am I dreaming? You think you're gonna get away with this? You can kiss your ass goodbye, punk!
Can you tell they're supposed to be evil? Anyways, beating most of them is incredibly easy when using the right tactic. Hitting them with most weapons will momentarily stun them, just enough for you to hit them again, and again, and again, and again until they're dead. The only exception to this was the final boss on the final stage, because here things play out a little bit differently. Rather than a single boss battle at the end of the stage, you have to fight through 3 boss battles with the same health bar. I died before I even realized the fight had begun. It's a good thing that when you die at a boss, you respawn at the beginning of that boss battle and not all the way back at the beginning of the level, because otherwise, this final level would have been really annoying. I died so many times. The boss was now transformed into mobile armor mode, rendering my grand stunlock tactic completely useless. I'll be honest here, I had to cheese him. Using all 3 of my special attacks was just enough to defeat him. And of course, I really wanted to defeat him to find out the epic conclusion of G-Saviour's story.
By the way, do you remember what I said earlier?
What was it?
I promised to make some special coffee for you. I'd like to keep my word.
Sounds great. I appreciate your invitation.
Shall we go then?
I don't think they're talking about coffee anymore. The epilogue after this then is either sad or funny, depending on how you look at it.
The power balance within the consent has been temporarily re-established. But the story of G-Saviour continues. His legend has just begun.
I'm sorry, G-Saviour, but this is where your story would end. At least the story you wanted to tell, because the thing that had really only just begun were 3 decades of ridicule, which were not entirely undeserved. But anyways, to wrap up my opinion for the video game. After beating the boss battle, several things are unlocked based on your performance and your selected difficulty. You'll get some CG images, which are nice to look at, but you can also make the various G-Saviour variants playable throughout the entire game. And if you're really good, by which I mean beating every stage on hard mode with an A rank or higher, you'll unlock the G-Saviour, which is like the coolest mobile suit of the entire game. I would buy a Gundam of this machine in a heartbeat. Or what you can also do is select Premium and watch clips from the G-Saviour movie. There's a 1 minute, 6 minute, and 10 minute clip. No thank you, I've already watched the full movie twice. So, where does this leave my overall opinion for the game? From beginning until just before the final boss battle, I genuinely had fun with this game, and I can even see myself trying to beat it again on a higher difficulty. Do keep in mind though, that I had fun with G-Saviour in the kind of I found this weird game in a bargain bin kind of way. Objectively speaking, I cannot call G-Saviour a good game. It's short, it can be beaten in a couple of hours, it looks bland, the voice acting is terrible, the gameplay could have definitely done with a few quality of life tweaks, and this was a full-price PlayStation 2 game when it released. But despite all of this, it did manage to charm me enough to actually recommend you to give it a shot. It's the perfect game if you just want to have some mindless, simple mech fun. It's also really cheap nowadays. The game managed to charm me so much even that I'm now considering checking out some other G-Saviour media, which I can of course get through today's sponsor, JP Fans, and you can do too with the link down below or the code 800220151. Not only will you be directly supporting the channel, but you'll also get shipping vouchers worth a total of $86. So go grab yourself some cool Japan-only stuff, whether it's G-Saviour, Premium Bandai, or something completely different. Don't forget to drop a like on this video if you enjoyed it, and also let me know what you thought about G-Saviour, both the movie and the video game. As always, a big thank you to the Patreon supporters. I hope everyone watching has a great day, and I'll see you all next time.